Maybe you've gotten a bunch of free stocks on Webull and you really don't want to invest in those companies, or you just decided that now's the time to get some cash. This video will show you step by step how to sell your stocks within the Webull app. There's a whole handful of different ways that you can sell stocks within Webull, but today we're only going to go over the three main ones: a market order, a limit order, and a stop order. Not only will I describe each of those and what they are so that you understand it really well, I'll also sell some of my own stocks using each method just so you can see how it works. First up, a market order. If you've ever gone to a really fancy restaurant and you've seen something like the sea bass or the swordfish or something like that that doesn't even have a price on it, it just says market price, that means the exact same thing in the restaurant as it means in the stock market. Namely, that the price that this thing is at this very moment in time is the price that you're going to get. Whenever you choose to do a market order on Webull, what it's doing is selling your stocks at that very moment in time. Right whenever you hit the sell button, that's the price that you get. All right, let's set up an example. All right, let's do this. If I go into the app, then I can go ahead and scroll down and find my CMEX stock. So I'm just on the first screen you get, the little watch lists screen. And then if I go into that middle screen there, where it's like the little bull emblem kind of a thing, then it's actually like my trading information, my trading ability. So then if I click on CMEX, then I'll go ahead and go for close, and I pick fractional share because I don't have like a full share of it. So I've got to pick fractional share. And then if I scroll down, then the order type automatically is market. So that's kind of handy. We're already right there. And then I can just leave the time and force to be day, because if it's a market order, then it's going to fulfill as soon as I hit sell. So then right when I hit sell, then it pops up there on the very top right corner and says filled. It's done. It's just that easy. Market orders are fast, easy, and immediate. A market order is best for someone who wants the trade to happen right away. Like, I don't really need the price to be anything specific. I just need it to happen right now. It's important to remember that the price of the stock is changing literally second by second all day. A market order tries to snag the price that is right there at that second whenever you hit the button, but there is a little bit of a process of going through different people to execute the trade. And so even if you see it at a particular point when you hit the button, it could vary a little bit from that moment until the next moment whenever you actually get the trade to go through, if that makes sense. Even though the odds are that that's like literally milliseconds or maybe a few seconds at the most with a corresponding price change that shouldn't be very big, some people think that's a big deal. I'm not a day trader, and I don't think that my success or failure as an investor can be like weighed in those moment by moment decisions, but a lot of people do. And so the next two forms of making an order, of selling a stock, will be able to give you a higher level of control than just a little simple market order. The first one of those is called a limit order, and that's where you can set a specific price for your stock to be bought or sold. For the context of us right now today, we're talking about it being sold, but this also works in reverse if you want to buy a stock. Like the name implies, limit order, you're setting a limit before that action is taken. In our case today, whenever we're selling stocks, we want to set a minimum level price that stock will sell for. So it has to be over and above that price for this to be happening. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. It's like a minimum threshold. Let's say, for example, you got some shares of GNW, which are really common for Webull to give out, and you want to wait for whatever reason until the price hits $4.30 per share. If you were going to use a market order for that, you would have to be monitoring your app just constantly, waiting to see if the price in that moment was at or above 430, and then you'd hopefully be able to put everything in and hit sell and do it all right away and really quickly so that you get that price that you want. A limit order does the waiting for you. As soon as that limit is met of $4.30, boom, that order will be executed automatically for you. You don't even have to have the app open. You don't have to do anything. Let's do an example of that right now. All right, now for our limit order, in contrast, let's go ahead and go back to the same screen that we started from. So we're gonna go from a similar starting point, that little middle icon that has like the bull horns on it. That's where we're gonna go because that's where we can kind of see all of our positions. That's where we can start doing this trade and see everything we've got on one spot. So if I go down and pick my GNW stock, which is what we're gonna use for this example, then I'm gonna start from the same place there at the bottom left corner. If I hit sell to close, then I can choose to close whole shares, or I can choose, again, fractional shares like before. So I'll go ahead and pick whole shares because I know for this specific one in particular that I've been given whole shares. They're not worth like a ton of money. And then all I have to do is go into the order type and choose limit. And then you'll be prompted to choose a limit price now because you're the one that's going to set up that parameter. So you get to type in whatever you want to sell it for. I'll pick 430 like we're talking about in our example. And then I don't know if I want to sell all 10
Let's go ahead and sell 7. Then we'll change the time in force here, because if you only have your limit order for time in force for a day, you may miss it. So I'll go ahead and change it till good till canceled. So it'll stay in place for up to 60 days. Then we'll hit sell. And then now you can see on the top right-hand corner, it hasn't filled yet. This is something that we're kind of aspiring to, this price that I'm hoping for. So in the meantime, we just have to wait. It's working, it's active, it's sitting and waiting for us.
Selling stocks this way ensures that you get exactly what you want or better. A limit order then is best for someone who wants to make sure that they're getting exactly what they've specified, even if it means waiting a while to get there. This could potentially take longer than the day you want to do the trade, especially if you have like a big gap in the price of what it is today to the limit price that you've set. You could be waiting days or weeks for this to happen. One tricky thing about limit orders that I just learned recently is that even if your limit is met, there's a chance that your order won't be filled, because if there's a bunch of people, let's say, who picked $4.30 per share for that G&W trade, then it's first come, first served. There's like a line of people waiting to get their order filled. And so let's say the stock price goes up above $4.30, boom, 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 boom. They're all getting their orders filled. By the time it comes back to you, maybe the stock price has dropped down below $4.30. It no longer meets your criteria. You don't get the trade met. So even though technically the stock was there, if there's enough people in line in front of you, you won't get the trade. Also, something that I think is really cool about a limit order is, for us, like whenever we're selling, you'll only ever get what you want or better. It cannot be sold for less than what you've set up. And so odds are if you set it up for $4.30 a share, maybe you'll get $4.31 or $4.35 or something that's even better than that, because that's just how a limit order works. A stop order is the third one we're going to talk about today, and it can be a little bit confusing at first because you might hear me talk about it and go, wait, isn't that like the same thing as the other two? Like, what's the point of this even existing? Hang on and it'll make sense to you, because it is actually pretty darn different. Just like a limit order, or a market order for that matter, a stop order can be used to either buy or sell. Today we're talking about selling stocks, but it's very different than a limit order, because even though you do set kind of a price limit, if you will, like a price target for your action to take place, the difference happens whenever that is actually met. Because at that point, it doesn't remain in those confines you've set up like it does in a limit order. It just transitions into a market order.
So let's go ahead and get rid of our Snap stock as an example. Why not? I've got it open in the phone here, ready to trade. I'll click on that bottom left-hand corner, pick close, the whole share. And then now instead of limit or market, I'm going to choose stop. And I like that Webull gives you a little description here. It says, set a stop price lower than current price. If market price drops to the stop price, a market sell order is triggered. And so it's kind of like you're trying to stop a worse loss from happening. You're trying to stop that current movement from really impacting you negatively. And so right now, the price is $11.68 for Snap. So I'll go ahead and pick $11.65. Why not? I don't really care. We're just doing this as an example, and I only have 2 shares worth. So now we can see that our order is working. It's sitting there and waiting for us. So if that price drops low enough, bam, it's going to stop the bleeding for us, and it's going to make that trade happen. Very cool.
Now, nothing will happen until the stock hits that price. But here's where it really diverges from what a limit order does. Once that happens, it just becomes a market order, and your order is fulfilled regardless of if then it goes way back down or if it goes way up or whatever. Your market order is getting filled as soon as possible. So a stop order is really different than a limit order because it's not got nearly as much control over it. There are benefits to a stop order though. Number one, there's good odds that your order will actually go through, because unlike with a limit order where there could be that big line of people who are waiting for their orders to get filled, odds are the fact that it transforms into a market order just means it's going to be filled. The other weird thing that can happen with a limit order that doesn't ever happen with a stop order is that you get this partial order filled. Let's say you had a bunch of shares that you had set up with a limit order. Once the share price exceeds that limit you've set, it'll start to sell those off. But then if the price goes back down, it might not have time to sell all of them. So you might end up with this sort of partial sale when you thought, oh, I thought I was going to sell all 50 of my shares. Now it only sold 30 of them. Well, that's a bummer. Then you have to wait around again until the price goes back up again. That kind of thing really doesn't happen with a stop order. Once that price is hit, the chain reaction is triggered and it becomes a market order and everything sells. Now it's a little more loosey-goosey because maybe you had those same 50 shares to sell and part of them sell for above the price that you had set. And then if the price happens to drop back down then in the next few seconds, then maybe you get a bunch of them sold below the price. It's more like I want this to happen right now unless I need this to happen in the way I've specified regardless of when it happens. Here's a really silly example that I thought up that is problematic, but I'm gonna use the analogy anyway. Let's say that you have a guard dog at your house, and the guard dog has been trained to not let anyone walk onto your property. Now, lo and behold, there's somebody there who's a bad guy who wants to walk onto your property. Now, if the guard dog had a leash and was only able to chase people to the limit of your yard, that would be like a limit order. That guy has started a chain reaction because he's walked onto your yard. That's like your price limit being met. Now, the dog has taken off and those trades are starting to happen with the shares that you wanted to sell, but the dog is limited to your yard. Just like a limit order is limited to the pricing that you set up. Now, if they run away and they get off of your property, then the dog can't chase them anymore. The dog is limited to however much biting he got done while the person was still on your yard. That's like if your limit order started to sell the shares that you wanted to sell, and then the price drops and it can't finish the order. A stop order is a similar situation, but once that person jumps on the lawn and starts walking towards your house, this time it's like your dog has no leash. It's like, hey, once that thing has been triggered, once the line has been crossed and the property line has been violated, that dog is going to chase them down no matter where they go. Down the street, across to the next state, anywhere. It will continue to chase them until it's satisfied. That's like your stop order becoming a market order and just executing that trade for however long it takes until it's all done and there's no limit, there's no boundary. That's my goofy analogy. It makes sense to me. I kind of like it, but let me know if it makes sense to you. Those are the 3 ways you can sell your free stocks with Webull, but if you don't yet have any stocks to sell, then you can sign up for a new account today and get at least 6 free stocks if you make a deposit of any size. We're talking about $1. Anything. They have this very limited promotion going on right now. I wanted to get this video out as soon as possible so you could find out about it. It's only going through to the end of September of 2022. Now they have a lot of promotions that happen here and there and everywhere, so odds are something else good will come around again in the future. But as of right now, this is the one that I have specific details on, the one I know is happening. It's wild because in those 6 stocks, you're going to get at least $34 worth of stocks given to you. Here's the breakdown and the details. If you open a Webull account before the end of September and it's fully open and like functional, they'll give you 2 free stocks worth at least $3 each. The value is between $3 and $300, but odds are it'll be between $3 and $6 in my experience. Then if you deposit any amount into it, then you'll get another 4 free stocks minimum. You could get up to 10 free stocks, but this second round is worth more money. It's worth between $7,000 and $3,000 per stock. Now odds are you're not going to get a $3,000 stock. You never know. It could happen. But if we plan on the bare minimum, that means it's a total of $34 of free stocks then. 2 stocks worth at least $3 is $6. 4 stocks worth at least $7 is $28. Add that together, you're getting $34 just for free, for doing nothing. Then back in the day, whenever I opened my first Webull account, then they gave me more options to get free stocks, like deposit $100, we'll give you 3 more. Deposit $500, we'll give you 6 more. And I just kept going and kept getting more and more free stocks. But even right now, $34, that's a good amount of money. You could buy a lot of stuff. You could buy something like a hanging cat towel on Amazon. Pretty cool. Or you could buy a giant tortilla blanket, also on Amazon. Who doesn't want that? Call me carne asada. If you're still curious about Webull free stocks and whether or not that whole thing is a scam, then click on this video to find out more. Okay, the secret comment word for today is tortilla, because that blanket looks delicious and I love tortillas. All right, see ya.